Jens Christian Stevenson. The floor is yours, and I'll leave it to you to introduce what you're going to talk about.
Hi. We're just going to give a brief summary of the session we had on sustainability and image and industry. And with the main topic of the discussions were about how does this affect industries and how can we create practical solutions to solve some of these problems that are created by climate change, and particularly sustainability. And during the sessions we had quite a few concrete examples on how these problems can be solved. And one of our first speakers were talking about the importance of property rights to be able, for industry to be able to make long-term decisions regarding stock use, fish stocks. It is crucial that the industry can own the rights to the fish stocks or whatever resource we're talking about. But again, the fish is traveling all around, different from borders to borders, so it was stressed that the importance of some sort of intergovernmental property rights system, which of course is a very difficult question because it involves many nations, and many of the countries in the north, they are not a part of EU, and so it makes it even more difficult. But one of the more concrete examples were the Ocean Rainforest Project, where the idea is to cultivate seaweed in the ocean, and you can use that for, among other things, to create bioethanol. And it's a very interesting solution in terms of climate change, because according to the studies they have done, if it was scaled up in a full scale, it will be able to basically counterbalance the CO2 emissions that the global level of CO2 emissions, basically bringing the global emission level down to zero. It's a very concrete business plan that at the same time might solve some of the most important issues that we are facing now. And some of the other examples of concrete solutions to sustainability was cod farming, which we have some experiences here in the Faroes. And we also had investment bankers talking about some of the sustainability issues that they are looking at when they're doing investments. And finally, we had a really interesting detailed discussion about how can you actually quantify sustainability. Sustainable business or sustainable management is a really nice term, but what do we actually mean by it, and how can we make it concrete, make it usable in a practical way? And there were some suggestions about a concept called environmental load. So looking at a product and analyzing what, for example, a pen, what is the environmental load of this product? It could be a tomato as well. And same products can have same tomato can have a very different environmental load. And they had presented a system where you would collect the data on several different aspects. It could be CO2, it could be what kind of metals are in it, or what kind of materials is it made of, and what is the consequence, what is the product life cycle of the certain products, and then add it all together, and then you end up with a a number, a quantification for the environmental load that product would have. But such a system, such a solution creates a need for a really good information system, because you have to gather a lot of information, and how are you going to manage that? And there were presented some solutions on this practical problems, and called traceability, basically where you trace the product and everything that goes into the product from its original place to the consumer. And in the discussion afterwards, there was an interesting discussion. We had, as I said, there were, as soon as you dive into look at what practical solution can we create to solve these problems, when you come down to the nuts and bolts of these issues, it's very easy to lose sight of the forest. You see a tree, but where is the forest? And during discussions, it was clear that some of the listeners thought that we had lost sight of the crucial issues, which was climate change. And I think that was an indicator of that as soon as you start to solve these problems, you go in many different directions, and you have brilliant people coming up with solutions in their own field. But what is also needed is the different efforts has to be brought together and integrated in some sort of a system. So these activities can be coordinated. And I think that might, it's possible that the tacit institution might come and play a major role in that field. I think that's briefly what we talked about. Thanks.